I'm Laurie Temelin. I'm a soprano with Voices Chorale, New Jersey. I've actually been singing with Voices Chorale for 23 years. So I've seen
Mm.
it go through a lot of evolutions, and I just love working with David these last few years. So it is my honor to be having this conversation with Dr. David McConnell, who is the artistic director of Voices Chorale, New Jersey, and internationally acclaimed British composer and conductor Will Todd, or at least that's what your website tells us. But I'd like you guys to both each introduce yourselves in a little more detail. So may I begin with Will?
Hi, I'm Will Todd. I'm a British composer of choral music. I also work a lot in theatre with opera, and I'm a jazz musician. And I'm very happy to be talking to you.
Thank you. And David?
I'm David McConnell. I've been the artistic director of Voices Chorale, New Jersey for 4 or 5 years now. And we're particularly happy about this concert because this is the first time we've gotten to work with a composer sort of in residence. So I'm very excited about that.
I don't know, Todd, if you've seen the official title. So this is the commercial message, if you will. We've called it Winter Light, Celebrating the Season in Song, and it will be held in Princeton, New Jersey at Trinity Church on December 16th at 7:30 p.m. So it is Winter Light. So it's a little broader framing than Christmas or holiday concert. I have to ask this question because I guess it's not that often that you get, and this is a question for you, David, that you get to conduct with a composer, joining you. So what is that like? Are there some, and I guess really I'd like both of your perspectives. Is it different for you to have a concert where you've got one of the composers right there, either on the stage or in the audience with you, that set up different feelings or expectations, and for you as a composer, hearing some of your works performed, Will, what feelings or expectations does that set up in you? Love to get your perspectives on that, because it doesn't happen. As singers, I have rarely had that opportunity.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? If I may, because I remember when I first sang in a choir. Now, this was my choir in my parish church in Durham, which is a little town in the north of England. If you visited the UK, you might have visited Durham Cathedral. It's quite a famous building, but this wasn't the cathedral. This was a parish church in the town where we went, and they had a choir. It was a good choir, and the choir director is a guy called David Higgins. Wrote music, and from time to time we would do settings of his music, which I always loved. He was I think a very gifted composer, and what it made me realize was that composers were actual living, breathing people that wrote stuff down and lived, in a sense, ordinary lives, but also wrote music. And the point you make is very true, isn't it? For a lot of the time when we perform music, the composers are either long dead or certainly not there with us at the time. It just made the whole thing real for me. Now, so I'm just telling that story to put it in context for me and how I experienced another composer before, in a sense, before I could properly write music. As a composer going into situations, I'm always very conscious that I don't want to make the conductor or the performers stressed out. And I know that can happen because there's a sense of, we want to get this right. Will's here. We want to get his music right. And the thing I seem to want to really focus on when I'm with people is, let's just enjoy this, and let's make this as special as we can now in this time. And because, as I said earlier on, as a composer, you're delighted that people are performing a piece that you've written. You're hoping that literally the notes that you've put in place will make them joyous or meditative or lyrical, or all of the emotions that come with singing. And that's what you want your music to make happen. We say this all the time, don't we? But you know, the copy of the music is not the music. It's just a plan about how we're going to make music together. It's all it is, right? The music is in the actual breathing and the singing and the musicality, the humanity, all of those things. And so as a composer, what you're hoping to find when you get to meet a group is that you've got lots of humanity pouring out of them, that the music is giving those important messages that David was referring to, messages of kindness, messages of gentleness, messages of celebration, all of those things. So for me, you know, coming to see you guys, that will be the excitement, is meeting you. Most of you I won't know yet, but then hearing you literally make music will be the most exciting thing.
That's wonderful. And David, from your perspective?
I think I would say I've experienced composers maybe two different ways. There are some composers who take the blueprint, you know, that Will was just describing. You know, here it is. I've found these dots and these dashes, and I've organized it, and this is what we will follow. And so when they come and work with you, if you have made an adjustment for the room, or you've decided that a certain place you want to do a rubato, a moment of, you know, stretch, and then some composers are really like, that's not in the plan, because I think, you know, they have written down exactly what they heard in their head, and that expresses exactly what they want to express. And so to find flexibility in that maybe someone else has seen it differently, experienced it differently, has you know, pulled something out of it and found something that maybe, I don't mean this as a criticism, but I think that sometimes composers can write a work and feel they have expressed everything and understood everything about it, when I think it's quite possible that they've created something that other people will take something different from it, which will be an equally valid point, maybe a point that the composer themselves never thought of. So that's always been an interesting experience, because then I feel I've had to quickly learn to see the piece only through their vision, which is fine. You know, I mean, I chose their piece because I appreciated their vision. But then there are composers like Will that, first off, I don't think there's ever been a time in any rehearsal where Will said, here's my plan, it's not following my plan. I think first and foremost, it's always a reference to is what I want to be said being said, and is there a way in the performance we can make it said even more fully? So it's not, you know, dots and dashes on a page. It's immediately about the text and what inspired him and what he feels, and then, you know, what I feel, and then is there a way to make sure that happens? So there's a maybe an understanding. Well, you know, that, right, there's a great story about Brahms, that Brahms went to two different performances of a same symphony in a weekend. And the first performance was with a person who very much exactly as Brahms intended, very little rubato. Everything he saw on the score, he did. But any sense of ebb and flow, he didn't do, because it wasn't in the score. And a friend who was with Brahms watched Brahms go up and say to this conductor, fabulous performance, really greatest performance I've ever heard of this symphony, thank you. And then the next night they went to another performance of the same symphony, and the conductor was very free with the score. You know, did what he felt, lots of rubato, and um, he went up to the conductor afterwards and he said, you know, fabulous. This is the greatest performance I've ever heard of a symphony. And afterwards, his friend said, you know, are you just being politically correct? How can that be true? The two performances were so different. And Brahms said it kind of, once it left him, he recognizes that other people will see it, feel it, understand it differently than him, and he could appreciate both. And you know, so I've never been with Will to see him with other people doing the music I've done. But I believe Will's probably like that. He understands that in the creative act, other people will find different things maybe, and I think he appreciates it all, which is, I think that all will be well that we're going to do. I mean, you know, when I wrote and said, what do you think about doing this Renaissance?
I loved that idea. I loved it.
I think some would say, wait a minute, the color I heard in my head was, don't change it. But Will was like, and I'm going to guess, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm going to guess Will had never said to himself, I wonder what that would sound like on Renaissance instruments.
No, absolutely. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a very good case study of what you've just been saying, which is that you've glimpsed something, you've had an idea, you know your choir, you know the space it's going to be in. In a sense, you've glimpsed something sort of dramatic that you can do with the timbre of the piece and in the presentation of the piece. And you're interpreting it. And yes, you're right. I love all of that. It's an interesting story about Brahms as well, and I have heard that story before, and I love it as an example of the way music changes when it goes into the hands of the performers. And in that vein, as I've got older, I actually write less rubato directions in my music, precisely because I think it can become a problem for the performers. It's so easy to just feel a little bit of space. The problem is if you write rallentando, everyone goes, right, we have to really slow down here. And then you start losing the flow of the piece. So actually, I have discovered in reality, less is more in terms of directions. And, you know, because two things are going to happen. You're either going to have a very technically developed group working on it with a sensitive music director, and they're going to make wonderful things happen anyway that you don't in a sense need to write in every aspect of, or you're going to be with a less experienced group for whom lots and lots of directions sort of inhibits their ability to give the music some kind of flow. So I've had a discussion a lot of the times with fellow composers. We're always talking about how do you get the right level of information in your score. If there's too little information, clearly that can present problems. You know, if I just sent you the words with play this in D minor, go, that you'd have probably felt that was a bit too little to go on, right? But on the other hand, if it's so complicated and there's, you know, that presents another set of problems. So I think it's the kind of, it's the one bit you can't quite legislate for as a composer. It's how sensitive your performers are. You don't know, because, you know, they could be people you never meet. They could be doing this long after you're dead. You know, so you have to trust ultimately that people who want to perform music have a desire to express something and touch their audience with their beauty and the beauty of their sound. But we're trusting on that as composers. But I'm very trusting with you, David.
Our concert is going to be a Winter Light celebrating the season in song on Friday, December 16th at 7:30 p.m. Trinity Church in Princeton. And tickets for in person as well as streaming will be available on our website, which is voicescorralnj.org. So thank you both very much. It's really been just such a delight to speak with you and to meet you, Will. So looking forward to it.
Thank you for your time today. It's great to talk to you, Will. Great to talk to you, Laurie.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye.
See you all
See you.
soon. Bye.
Bye. Take care.